cozy time. All right, guys, thank you for listening to Whispers of the Unbridled Spirit. And I'm here today with Kayla, and I'm Mallory, and we're going to tell you about our experiences in the paranormal. It's kind of weird because when we tell this story, there's parts of it that we haven't even talked about yet, and there's different aspects of we grew up together, so there's different aspects of our age ranges when one didn't have the other in the house, so different things happened. And like I said, I don't know all the stuff, and
I think we should tell them a little bit about, like, from the start.
Yeah, let's do it.
So we grew up in southern Indiana on, how many acres was it before?
About 40 acres.
About 40 acres. It was me and my mom, her mom and dad, and then our great-grandma and great-grandpa. And we lived there until, what year did we move?
I think it was 2007, 8.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So about 2007, 2008, our family bought an old Franklin school building. It was built in 1910, right?
1909.
Oh, 1909. And it needed a whole overhaul. It was cluttered, at least 2 feet high almost anywhere you went, full of stuff.
Trash, yeah.
Trash, props, just all kinds of stuff. It was overwhelming, honestly. We were so little. We were like, we're living here? We're going to move here?
Yeah. It took us a couple of years to move in, honestly, and because it had so much work that needed to be done.
Yeah.
And we were both young, and we were moving houses for the first time ever. It was a big adjustment.
Moving school districts.
Yes. It was insane. It
was a big deal. And we were moving to literally almost 100-year-old school building, and so it was cool, but it was also kind of like, what the heck at the same time. We didn't know what we were getting ourselves into. But I would say the first, I don't know, I was 8 or 9, so I really shouldn't be guesstimating like this, but in the beginning, we remodeled one of the classrooms, and me, Mallory, my aunt, my mom, and my grandma and grandpa, we all lived in a studio apartment that used to be a classroom.
Yep.
And we all lived there, and meanwhile, all the other classrooms were getting remodeled into loft apartments. So, like, me and my mom, we had our own loft apartment. You guys had your own. Mm-hmm. And then we, after we got those completed, we got the other ones completed to rent out. And I would say stuff started happening, though, very early on.
It did.
I feel like it was almost immediately.
Yeah, I think, after we cleaned everything out and we started staying there more frequently, because it took us about 2 years to move in officially. And on top of that, getting everything ready, we spent our weekends there, we spent our summers there until it was officially done. And the first experience, I think you guys hadn't officially moved in yet. Mom and Dad were staying there. We were almost done and got room for you. And we were in one of the studio apartments. And from what I remember is I woke up in the middle of the night, and we had these doors. They were 12-foot doors. They were huge, massive wooden doors. And it's old, so every time you open the door, it would just creak. It just always creaked or made a noise, or something always happened when you open a door.
Yeah.
And I woke up in the middle of the night, and I usually slept with this puppy, and my puppy was in bed with me, and I was like, what the heck is going on? So I wake up and, wake it up a little bit more. I see the doors cracked open, and I was like, what the heck is going on? My parents used to wake up super early in the morning, so they don't mess around at night. They go to sleep, and since we were all in the studio, I could see them clearly sleeping in their bed, and they wouldn't just open the door for no reason. We kept it locked just in case, and I'm looking for her, and I'm like, what is going on? I was like, this dog never leaves this bed. Something's going on. So I opened the door just to see, hey, you out there? If not, I'm going to abandon you because this ain't cool. And so I close the door and I walk in, and then all of a sudden I hear her in her kennel, and I'm like, oh, what the heck is she doing there? She hates it in there. So I pulled her back out, put her in bed, and I was like, okay, whatever. And I went to sleep. Next morning, Mom's making breakfast, and I wake up, and I'm like, she's like, what happened? What'd you do last night? And I was like, what are you talking about? I didn't do anything. I said, what did you do last night? And she's like, why was the door open? I was like, I didn't open the door. I was sleeping. I said, I thought you opened the door, or I don't know, just it's old door. I don't know. I wasn't trying to read into it at the time. I was a little scared. Yeah. And she goes, well, all our silverware is missing. I was like, what do you mean? She goes, there's, I don't have any forks. I was like, no, that didn't happen. She's like, yeah, I don't have any forks. And, we never had forks again for a little bit, and then we had to buy a new silverware set.
Yeah.
That was like the first thing that happened that everyone was...
wasn't one of the renters, didn't they start missing all of their silverware and their door was open that same morning?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And we did too.
Yeah.
All of ours was missing. Me and Mom.
Oh, wow. See,
because I think we lived upstairs at the time.
It might have been. I know that silverware went missing in that room. And we were in the apartment, our loft apartment yet. We were in the studio still. We were still working on ours.
But me and Mom were upstairs,
yeah,
right?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. That's why you weren't there. Yeah, you were living upstairs at the time.
Yeah, because so we all wake up. You had that experience. We had that experience. The door was open and all of our forks were gone. And then we talk that next morning and we're both like, what the heck? We both had our doors open and our silverware was gone. And it's like so many things like that were so unexplainable happened. You know, like, okay, what is the likelihood that somebody broke in just specifically to steal our forks? You know? And
mind you, like, this isn't a house that, like you could get around easily without being noticed, because everything creaked. Everything, like, you could hear groaning from just a step, just, like, coming to life in the middle of the night. Yeah. And on top of that, we had a bunch of dogs, and our dogs were very protective of us. And it was just, like, the weirdest situation to be put in, because our dogs were super protective. They would have let us know if something was happening. We would have woke up, because all of us were almost light sleepers. So it was just a weird incident that started out. And then some other weird stuff started happening, and then we started putting two and two together, you know?
Yeah.
I think the next incident was the mom with a tissue box.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sorry, if we keep saying mom, and I just want to make this clear, this is weird. So she is my niece, but we're only 5 years apart. And so she calls my mom, and her mom is also her mom.
Yeah, so when I was little, I was jealous that my mom, my aunt, and my uncle got to call my grandma mom, but I didn't. So I took it upon myself to start calling her mom. And it's just like, honestly, I feel like people can tell which mom I'm talking about, even if I don't specify, because it's just like a thing that I've done literally since I could probably talk.
Yeah, it is.
So, yeah, if we say mom and it seems confusing, just know it's one of the moms that raised us.
Yeah, it's someone in the house, okay? Yeah. It's a specific adult in the house that was raising us at some point, one of our moms. But she was sitting in the room, and she had a tissue box next to her, and she was smoking at the time, and she looked over, and all the tissues inside the box started to go inside the box. Just started to be pulled in,
like
back
as if
inside.
Something was inside the tissue box pulling it back down.
Yes, and I remember her running into our apartment and being like, Dad, go handle this. I think there's a mouse in a Kleenex box. And he ran in there, and he opened it up and pulled out all the tissue boxes, and there was nothing in there. Nothing chewed its way in, nothing like that. It was just like another weird...
unexplainable thing.
Yeah. It was like one of the craziest things. And I think after that, I think that was like in October, and then in December... Mom also had another experience, and then after she had that experience, we started experiencing more, I think.
Yeah.
So it was Christmas. We had a big, huge family Christmas party since we had the space for one. And also it was a big year for her. I think she had a big birthday. It was like 50 or something like that. And so everyone was there. Everyone was celebrating. But she had to go to bed early because she had to wake up at like 4:30 in the morning. So at like 9:30, she was like, I gotta go to bed. Sorry, I just gotta get up early in the morning. And she went and laid in bed. And all of a sudden, she felt something crawl into bed with her and lay down next to her. And she said that, she goes, I think it was a little boy. She said, I think it was a little boy who came in the room and lay down with me. And I was like, okay, all right. Cool. That's the best way to explain it. When these things start happening, I think a lot of people, personally, from our experience, you kind of like, all right, it's happening, but it doesn't. It's not hurting me or afflicting me right now, so it's cool.
Well, and I think that's why more and more started happening, is because we were all like, open to it happening. We were accepting of it, and we had opened ourselves up to it unintentionally, just by being like, okay, this is a thing that happens here.
Yeah.
So I think that played a big part in why it like escalated like it did, and
It is, and the school was used for so many things before we bought it. It was abandoned for the last 12 years before we bought it. But before that, it was like a hospital. It was a radio station at one point. They did Halloween stuff in it. So you had Halloween props all over and some stuff. We took over 200 truckloads of trash out. There was so much stuff, and there might have been some stuff that was going on that we did not see because we weren't looking for it.
Yeah.
But it had an aura about it. Once you were in the school, once you like finally started like feeling the things around you and noticing things, the whole school had its own little heart, and it had its own emotions. It had everything going on in it, and we started all feeling that, and that's when things started escalating for us. After that, things started getting really weird, I think, especially for us. In the more of the stories you're about to hear, like, everything progressively got worse for us as kids. And I have a theory on it, and I'm sure you have a theory on it too. But that's because you stayed there longer than I did. Yeah. I graduated before you, so...
Yeah, some of my personal experiences, none of these are in order. Because I was young, so some of them I may have gotten mixed up. Some of them, may not be in order, but I'll just kind of tell some of my tidbits. But one that always stood out to me was one morning I was getting ready for school, and my mom was already at work. So I was by myself. I think I was watching like MTV, like the music videos, real early in the morning. And I was sitting on the couch, and I didn't have any pants on because, I was just in like a t-shirt because I was about to start getting ready. And I was eating cereal, and I was crisscross applesauce. And I'm sitting there watching YouTube, eating cereal. And all of a sudden I start feeling a burning sensation on my... Oh, that's my phone. I started feeling a... Thanks. That's good. A burning sensation on my inner thigh. And so I'm like eating cereal, and I look down, and I see a scratch starting to form in front of my eyes. I am seeing a scratch forming. Oof. And I'm feeling the burning as it's happening. Yeah. And it was a pretty big scratch. And I have literally zero explanation. Because like I said, I was sitting there for a hot minute with my leg just in the air. I was eating cereal. And so, like, I don't have any explanation, for how that happened. Yeah. And that to this day will always blow my mind. Watching that happen in front of my eyes. Like, I know you hear about people that are like, oh, I think I just got scratched. Like when they're,
provoking
or whatever. But, like, usually it's, like, on their back, and they don't, like, see it happening. They just see the marks afterwards. But, like, to sit there and watch it was wicked.
That is wicked. Yeah. I see, and that's, like, something... I think I remember something about that. Yeah. But it was one of those things where we're like, okay, still cool. Yeah. Still very cool. Nothing's happened to me yet. Yeah.
And then... Oh gosh, some of the, like, common things, like, there's no specifics, really. I mean, maybe I could go into specifics, but one of the common things is if you're just chilling on the couch, watching TV or whatever, hanging out with friends, whistling. A man, I would say an older man, whistling. Yeah. Would just happen randomly throughout the house. And it's just like, okay. Cool. That's our vibe throughout this whole thing.
Yeah, we're playing it cool because this is still, it's still kind of unreal what happened to us, and we're still kind of like, hey, it did happen. It just, now looking back on it, it's been like, we haven't owned our home in almost 10 years now. We sold the school later on.
We sold it in 2016.
Yeah.
Or no, 2015.
Yeah.
Because it was right before my senior year.
So almost,
Yeah.
it's getting close.
Yeah.
But I think it's hard for us to put everything after, being so long and everything. And like I said, we had 2 different experiences, I think, more than anything. She got the worst experiences out of everyone in the house. I had scary experiences, but mine was more, because I felt like the ghost was more protective of my mom, than anything. And I think I don't know. She lived upstairs next to the principal's office, or it used to be the principal's office. And the juju up there was not good.
No.
It was not a good place. It was not a happy place.
I just, as soon as you said the principal's office, I got cold chills.
I did it too.
Because the vibes, okay? There were certain parts of the house where, like, the vibes weren't bad. You were like, okay, this is like a little kid spirit. And I know we sound like crazy, okay? I know we sound crazy, but you just had to be there. Anyways, there were times where it felt like, okay, this is just like a little kid ghost playing pranks, all right, whatever. And then there were some times where it was like, you could tell it was something bad.
Yeah.
Or not even, and I'm not necessarily talking like demonic bad, but just like,
it did not
a
have
sad spirit or like a bad spirit.
It did not have like there was mischievousness, and you always felt when that was going to happen.
Yeah.
But the bad felt dark. Like, it really felt dark. Like it sucked your soul in, and it was just like, hey, you're going to feel the same way I feel.
Yes.
And that's when that's when things got really bad, is when we started experiencing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, one time we had, was a Halloween party, and some of our guests, they were playing the Ouija board in the stage room, and I walk in, and they were they were kind of taunting, and provoking. They weren't taking it seriously. They weren't, they were just kind of making a mockery out of it. And so we were like, hey, you need to stop. You can't do that here, because we have been through some shit, okay? So we tell them, like, hey, that's not cool. We don't mind if people want to play the Ouija board, but you're going to be respectful. And they were not being respectful. So anyways, we tell them to stop, and they kind of argued with us on that. And then finally they stopped. And so I take the Ouija board away and I put it up. Well, immediately I just get the urge to run outside. And as I'm running outside, I go down the stairs and I run outside to the front yard, and I start almost hyperventilating. I remember that. I'm getting cold chills just thinking about this. I start hyperventilating, and I just get this like feeling of sadness over my entire being, and then I start puking profusely. And I wasn't drinking, okay?
I remember that, yeah.
I was 100% sober, was not drinking. I start puking everything up, and it was almost like the ghost knew that they were making a mockery out of them, and I was being punished for that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how to explain it, but like I could just tell that's what it was.
But everyone that night that did that instantly turned very aggressive.
Yes.
After that.
Very aggressive.
They started a couple of fights. Yeah, a fight broke out, and when you asked them why it broke out, they were like, I don't know. I don't even know her.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like one of those things where you're looking back now and you're like, yeah, emotions, something took over your emotions, made you very aggressive.
Yeah.
Because it was something, like, these people never met each other before. They didn't even live in the same
And we were
city.
having an amazing time.
Yeah. Up until that point.
After they did that, the vibes of the whole party, because we had a basement, a main floor, a whole, second floor, and then we had an unfinished attic. And so the party was in the second floor, the main floor, and the basement. Like, there was people all over the school. Different crowds, different people doing different things. And everybody was vibing. And then after that, and after I threw up and I came back inside to shit hitting the fan with everybody. And we were like, okay, it's time to go to bed.
I know, we kicked almost everyone out.
Get out and go to bed. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was wild.
It was. And then also, like, our renters started experiencing a lot too.
Well, early on.
Early on they did. I know the first one, his name was Shane. Do you remember Shane?
Oh, yeah.
He was our first real renter. He was a good guy. I mean, he was a solid dude. I don't know what else to say, but I would believe him if he told us something. He was alone at the school. No one else was in the school. Not even us was in the school building. We were all camping. We were gone. Everyone was gone.
We have river property, and we were all gone camping, and nobody besides that renter was at the house.
And
for a fact,
he worked nights, so he was staying up all Friday night or Saturday night, one of the two. And at like 2 a.m., all of a sudden, he hears his doorknob start turning and turning and turning and turning and turning. And it just keeps turning. And I think he went out and checked it. From what I remember, he was like, "Yeah, I went out and checked it for a second." He goes, "I didn't really investigate, but I went out just to make sure." And he said there was nothing there. And we kept the school locked really, really, really well. So that was just one of the experiences from him. I think other people did have experiences. Some of the renters did. And they didn't tell us everything because, like, looking back on it now, some of the stuff was very harmless. It was very minute stuff, and then some of the stuff like escalated, like I said, and like she said, like it just started escalating, especially for like the kids in the house.
One of the renters, they had a really good friend that was, I think she was a medium. Mm-hmm. And by the way, when we were, when we had applicants, to be tenants in our apartments, we didn't disclose, like, oh, it wasn't a selling point, like, oh, hey, this place is haunted, come live here. We didn't really speak much about it unless they came to us.
Yeah. They told us their story, we were cool with it.
Just, a little side note. So with that being said, one of our renters had a medium friend, and she invited her over, and she came over, and she said, I cannot go inside of this place. Do you remember that?
I vaguely remember that one.
Her friend refused to step foot. I'm getting cold chills. Refused to step foot inside of the school.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if she eventually ended up going, or I don't know any details like that, but, yeah, they kind of, told us, I think the next day, they were like, hey, I had a medium friend come over, and she, like, ran out and refused to hang out here. And we were like, oh, okay.
Thanks.
That's awesome to know. Right. I don't know. I don't know if it was just overwhelming. I don't know if it was bad or evil, or like I said, maybe it was just too overwhelming for her. Yeah. And she didn't want to be in an environment that was overwhelming like that to hang out with a friend. But regardless of what it was just kind of eerie. Like, okay.
You might know more renter stories. You want to tell a couple more renter stories? Maybe Brandon's?
Oh, I feel like Mom would probably know more about his stories. I know she's told me some of his stories from high school that she experienced with him, but as far as at the school, I don't know if I remember anything to do with him.
I remember,
honestly, I feel like Shane's is the only specific story that I remember.
I remember that one because it was just so odd because no one else could have been in the house.
And that was the very first one.
And I know she was saying Brandon experienced a little boy on the stairwell looking through the spindles of the stairwell. And, the funny thing is, the little boy thing, we always called...
I think we all seen him.
I didn't get to see him. I experienced him.
I saw him and didn't really say a whole lot. And then Mom was like, yeah, Brandon said that he saw a little boy peeping his head out from, like the stairs, like the... I guess his head was like in between the railing of the stairs, peeking his head out. And I was like, stop. There's no way. And then I told Mom what I saw. So, the front entrance, right, it was like big, double doors. And then it's just a bunch of windows. We had like a little foyer, and then we had like a swinging door that went down in the basement where you could go up to the main level. And there was big windows where you could see the stairwell that went down to the basement. And I saw the little boy. In that big window when I was coming home one night. And I remember, I think I was out past curfew, so I couldn't call Mom because I didn't want to get in trouble. So I was like, fuck, I have to walk past this little boy staring at me by myself.
So looking at the little boy, Could you put a period, like an age or a period to him?
I would say about 8 years old.
Okay.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah, like, is he, like, what age range?
Yeah.
Maybe did he have some kind of clothing that made you say, okay, he might be from, like, the 1900s when they first opened up?
100%. It looked like almost like suspenders and like a button up.
I'm getting so many cold chills right now.
And guys. I know I'm about to get emotional because I remember when I seen this little boy through the window, the sadness that came through it, and I was freaked out. You know, I was out past curfew. It was the middle of the night, and I was by myself, and I had to walk past this little boy. There was no other entrance that would have been less creepy, you know, to come in. But at the same time, I felt for him because I could just, like, see the sadness. There was, like, a playful side. Like, one time, I'm pretty sure I saw him, like, peek out from the swinging door when I was upstairs. And then he, like, turned around and ran down the steps. But, like, that night that I saw him and he was staring at me, it was, like, so much sadness. And that's one thing I wish we still had the school for a lot of reasons. But I wish, now that I'm older and I can be more, you know, intuitive, and now that I'm more educated on things, I feel, and more access to resources so that I could figure out, you know, a way to help, like, set them free. Because, like, I couldn't imagine my little boy being in sadness for eternity, you know?
Yeah.
And
100%.
that's another thing that I would love, like, education on, like, what to do in that scenario.
Yeah.
Because that kind of, you know, breaks my heart.
Yeah, definitely. I like, and
it may be creepy, but it also breaks my heart.
Like I said, I never seen the boy. I felt him. I felt him all the time.
Yeah.
My issue was I never got to see him, and I think I made it very clear, though, I never wanted to see him.
Yeah.
Because I knew if I seen him, I was done. I was done with this place, and I was not going to be the same. But also, you had another experience, though, where, like, I know you didn't see him, but you had stuff thrown at you.
Yeah.
I remember that night.
I had
Spicerfest.
I had a shoe thrown at me.
Yep.
The shoe came out of my closet and around the corner and was thrown at me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was...
I remember that night. I remember you running down so fast down the stairs, you almost broke your ankles.
Yeah.
You were so scared, and you were hypoventilating, and you said something, a shoe just got thrown at me. And
scared the shit out of me.
It did. It was, like, one of the scariest moments. Yeah. So mine, and I know you experienced some stuff later on after I left. I know I experienced...
Yeah, tell them about what happened in your room, and then I'll tell what happened to me in that same room.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell them a couple things that happened to me while I was there. First off, like I said, principal's office, not a big fan. Never a huge fan. Never liked going in there. Never stayed the night in there. But some of the other things that happened to us, like, we would have music playing. Just random ballroom music playing. And not near the vents, not near anything that would make this, like, travel through anywhere. It was just this old-timey, you could hear the scratch on a record and just ballroom music playing. And you couldn't find the source, but you could hear it. And it was just the creepiest thing.
Like something out of a movie.
It really is. It really is. And you're just like... Because it would happen when you least expected it. Like, the day that happened, I can remember that one very well. I was carrying wood up from the back of the truck all the way to the second floor. And as soon as I got to the second floor, I heard it, and I said, "Where's the radio? No one's going to like this music." I was about to turn it, and I was like, "Oh my God, there's not even a radio in here. What's going on?" And then I grabbed Mom. She was coming up with some more wood, too, and I was like, "You hear that, right?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Where's it come from?" And it just traced to a corner, and there was no outlet, there was no nothing. It just was playing, and that's one of the stories I was like, "Oh, okay. I made my peace."
Cool.
Yeah. And then the scary, like, the moment things really started changing for me was, my brother is in the military, her uncle is in the military, and he got back from Afghanistan. And my parents had to start traveling more to go see him. And when they started traveling more to go see him and spending less time at the school, especially for my mom, I think the spirit took it the wrong way. Especially because he was the only son anyway. I think them disappearing to go help their son, I think, angered the spirit a lot. And I think it took it out on us. To her. Yes, it took it out on us a lot.
Yeah.
For having these issues. And I just remember the first time I was ever alone there, downstairs by myself. And I was watching TV, and we had these like lights in the kitchen, and what you did was like, it's kind of like a motion sensor, only it wasn't like you touched it and it would turn to different levels of lighting. So, the brightest, medium light. All of a sudden, I'm watching a show and the lights turn on, and I'm like, okay, all right, maybe a fly. It goes to the next notch, and I'm like, okay, this is getting a little weird. And it goes to the next notch, and then it turns off. I'm like, okay, cool. And then it turns back on again, and I hear footsteps. So it's coming from the kitchen, this long galley kitchen, and it starts walking into the living room, and it stops right at the top step of the living room. And I'm like, okay, all right, I can't see anything. Dogs aren't barking. I'm a little freaked out right now. And I'm like, okay, all right. You know what? This sounds weird, but I used to watch Ghost Hunters all the time, and I know that they made it very clear that the best way to handle a situation if you're dealing with something you can't see or paranormal is kind of just lay down the law. I basically said, leave me alone. So that night, I didn't have anything else happen to me, but the next night, I guess I didn't scare it away too much. I was sleeping in my parents' room that night. The first night I slept in my room, and the second night I was like, I'm going to sleep in my parents' room. It's downstairs. If I need to make a quick getaway, I can run very fast and get out of there.
Feet don't fail me now.
Right. So I'm laying in their bed. It's a kind of like a small, odd angled room. All of a sudden I just hear footsteps going back and forth in her room, and it's pacing like aggressively pacing back and forth. And I knew instantly when I woke up and heard that noise, I knew it was angry, and I knew it was sad, and I knew it was mad, and I knew it was not okay with my mom not being there. And I was like, thank God they come back tomorrow. I gotta tell Mom, we gotta talk about it.
Yeah.
So we kind of talked about it a little bit, and I was like, it does not like it when you leave. I said, it's not happy when you leave. I said, I could tell you where it was last night. And I was like, it's pacing back and forth. And she's like, it hangs out in my room quite a bit. And I was like, okay, cool. Well, I don't like it when it hangs out in your room and you're not here.
Yeah.
It wants to see you, not me. And then she took off again for spring break. She was gone for like a whole week. That was the first longest trip she had made. And I was upstairs sleeping. And I had two dogs. I had one medium-sized dog and one kind of like a small, thick dog. Let's just say she's thick. And I woke up in the middle of the night, and all of a sudden my covers are just being ripped off of me. And I'm like, first I woke up and I'm like trying to process what is happening first. And I look at the dogs, and the dogs are just still sleeping peacefully. One is actually in between my legs under the covers, and the other one's sleeping next to me right on my side under the covers too. I'm like, what is going on? So I pull the covers, and something is pulling back. And I'm trying to figure it out. And I finally said, let go and get out of my room right now. And after that, it let go, and I didn't have an issue that night. But I knew then that I really started watching those shows, because at the time that was really only thing that, you could have read books, but I think our small town hasn't.
I think our age group, we were, teens and tweens, so watching a show was more of what we would do to,
Yeah, and I think there wasn't a lot educational out there. They were just hey, let me tell you what's haunted, not let me help you with how to deal with the haunted. And I think that helped me out a lot.
To add to that, so years later, after Mallory moved out, me and Mom moved into their apartment downstairs. So I was in your bedroom, and like I said, this was years later.
And I didn't know about this till recently. By the way, we just recently discussed this. So,
just to note, the door would shut on its own, not, you know,
It happened
anything.
to you too?
No, it wasn't anything paranormal. It was...
Okay, all right. I was about to say,
no, it was the way, like the...
It was
just
angled.
gravity.
Yeah.
Pulling it to shut, okay? So I would leave a candle propping the door open. I had this big, you know, Yankee candle.
I remember. It was huge.
Yeah. I would use that to prop my door open because I didn't like having my door shut at night. I don't know why. I just didn't like it. And so, anyways, one night I woke up to the blankets being pulled off of me. And so I'm sitting here playing tug of war with my blankets, right? Go to sleep. I wake up to Mom banging on my door. I think she was freaked out. Like, she didn't know, you know, was I alive? Was I not? You know, like, what did I do? I think she was nervous because I wasn't waking up, and she'd been banging for a hot minute. And my door wouldn't open. Mind you, when I went to bed, I had a candle holding that door open. Well, the candle was across the bedroom, on the other side of the bedroom. And I wake up and I'm like confused, and I think she was about ready. We had windows with doors that open and close in my bedroom because it was a loft. I think she was about to climb over the bridge and come through one of those windows because like she was Oof. And so we're both struggling to open the door, and come to find out it was locked. And I was like, what the fuck? I was like, I literally had this propped open with a candle before I went to sleep.
Yeah.
And yep, woke up, candle was across the room, door was locked. And I didn't even notice that when I woke up to play tug of war with my blankets. I didn't even notice the door, so I couldn't tell you if it was closed then or not. I have no idea. But Mom was like, why would you lock your door? She was like, you know I have to come in here and wake you up for school. And I was like, Mom, I didn't. And then I told her what happened, and I showed her where the candle was, and we were both just like, what the fuck? It didn't want her to get to me. And that creeped me out because you could feel
the tension.
The way the candle must have been, you know, chucked across the room, and the door slams and locks. Like you could just feel in that moment that they did not want my mom to be able to get to me. And it's like, for what? What were you trying to do to me? I asked them that. I was like, what were you trying to do to me?
Yeah.
And, you know, obviously they didn't talk back. But that always made me wonder, you know.
Yeah.
And it creeped me out. And I think I slept with Mom after that when I could.
Yeah, I mean, it was after that experience, though, I was like, okay, it's not playing, I'm not playing.
Yeah.
So I, like, that night, I think, Mom was gone, and I was like, okay, well, I'm laying down the law tonight, and I said, if you come anywhere near me or interfere with my well-being, I'm going to get rid of you one way or another. And I told it, I threatened it, and I said, I'm willing to keep the peace, but if you harm me or scare me in any way on purpose, just to be malicious, I am going to get rid of you one way or another. Yeah. And after that, things didn't attack me as much as like that. It was more like, hey, I am going to scare you just to scare you.
Yeah.
Because after that, I graduated. I moved down in the basement in this little tiny studio apartment, and yeah, and the door. There was just one night. It was like 2 a.m. I remember this. So at the time I was babysitting my brother's dogs, and so I have 2 giant chocolate labs. I got a giant Great Dane. I got my 2 medium dogs all with me in this room. All of a sudden in the middle of the night, you hear something slammed into the door. It's like 2 giant men just slammed into the door and shook the handle as hard as they could. And I woke up, the dogs woke up, everyone was barking at the door, and then they got silent. And I was like, oh, makes me, I didn't open the door that night, but I was like, nothing.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
It scared me so bad. I didn't know what happened, but I didn't feel good about it. And I was like, I'm not opening this door. And the dogs didn't feel good about it. So I was like, I'm definitely not opening the door now. Yeah. I was like, if I had my brave commandos, I'll go out there and we'll handle the situation. But they were not brave in that moment. I was like, it's not a person. Because they would have definitely handled it if it was a person. And I think that was the last major thing that ever happened to me, other than like things grew normal too. like things disappearing,
So
things getting hidden, things.
That's what I was just thinking about.
Things like just
things would just go missing. I know we talked about the forks, but like the forks weren't the only thing. There were, just all kinds of knickknacks and just random things that would go missing. And it's like, I always wondered if we like went up to the unfinished attic, like back in the dark corner. Like, I wonder if all of our belongings are up there, like if it was like a prank that they were trying to pull or what.
Yeah.
But to this day, I would love to know where all of our shit is.
Right.
No, like seriously, I was hoping when we moved that maybe we would
start finding things
finding stuff, but no. We never found the forks.
Yeah.
Or any other stuff.
I gotta say though, when we started, so my parents didn't tell me they were selling the school until I stumbled across it. And when I walked into that building again, after I hadn't lived there in like 4 years, it was so different as far as what it felt like in there too, though. It was not happy about this change, and it was not happy about us moving. It was not happy.
I know. Y'all left me in the dust, okay? You motherfuckers left me high and dry. Mom experienced a lot of stuff, but I feel like it really took it out on me.
Yes. 100%. I think it did. Well, it took it out on you mostly because I was gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm talking, like, it started shoving me downstairs for no reason.
Oh, yeah.
It started, I swear, when I snapped my ankle on the sidewalk in the front yard, I swear that was because of you guys leaving.
Yeah, it was bad. When I walked in there, I think it was like the last time I ever walked in there, I could tell that it was so upset, and it was just angry at that point that even if we took the school back, I think it would just terrorize us just for even thinking about us leaving.
Like, it started putting its hands on me for sure, a lot more than what it used to. And like, more things started flying at me and moving, and it was very eerie. But it's like, at the same time, there were times where, so do you remember how specifically in the basement you would get little butt pinches, or like back pinches?
You
like
get a touch.
That you could tell it was like kind of just like, boop, I'm here. That didn't feel angry or malicious. It just felt like like a little boop. And so, like, that was fine.
Yeah.
And that was just when you went to the basement to do laundry or, for whatever reason, you were going to get booped,
Oh, yeah.
And, like, that was fine. I was cool with that. But after everybody left and it was just me and Mom and some of the tenants, like I said, I started getting shoved downstairs or, just things like that started happening that just felt very malicious. And I was like, holy shit.
It was very upset.
And Mom, Mom was working all the time, and and she was going to school, and so I was by myself a lot.
Well, you were easy target too, like.
And I was an easy target because I am so open to. I have such a open mind to things, not just paranormal, with anything. And so I think it definitely took advantage of that. And I wish I would have known then what I know now about, being able to control it and being able to put my foot down. And, obviously we all the women in our family have some kind of gift. Like, we're all connected in a weird way, like I could be needing something, and my grandma the next day will go to a yard sale and find it and buy it and be like, oh, hey, I bought this for you. And I would be like, what the heck? I literally was just thinking yesterday about how I needed to buy one of these. And so, like, that may seem silly, but that's just one example of how we just all are connected in a weird way and thinking what each other are thinking. And I wish I would have had more intuition like that when I lived there. I feel like I was very ignorant, but yet open still at the same time. But I was ignorant to how to handle it and how to accept it and how to, help it or whatever it needed.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It needed help, but it wasn't getting it from Mom, and it didn't know how else to get it. I think it was so desperate to get help that it started turning mean. Yeah. And I don't think it tried to do it on purpose. I just think it kind of started happening that way.
Still to this day, I get boops. I get little bump pitches all the time.
every once in a great while, I feel like it's here. Like, it visits me and says, hey.
It happens to me all the time. You know, I'll be bent over doing laundry or doing the dishes or doing my makeup, and something comes up and pinches my butt. But, so, actually, I just had the realization. So, I thought that maybe it was the ghost from the school that did that to us. But doesn't that sound like something Danielle would do?
Yeah.
I just thought about that.
Yeah. I mean, that was one of her favorite ways to show you she was here.
Yeah, I just had that realization that maybe it's not the ghost from the school. Maybe that's Danny.
It might have been.
That's crazy.
But also, like I said, I don't... I think the school followed you a little bit after
100%.
you left for a long time, because you were the closest still living in Tell City, and you were there and able to... They was close by and able to do that. Every once in a while... So after I moved out of the school and I lived on my own, I didn't have experiences in the first place. I was living for a while. But after I moved to the next house I was living into, I had weird stuff happen, but it wasn't like something that made me feel like, okay, this place is weird. It was like something that would randomly happen. Like, I had my hair tugged one day. I looked at Chris and I was like, of my husband, and I was like, excuse you? And he was like, what? And I was like, did you just tug on my hair? He goes, no. I was like, okay, all right, okay, cool, that's fine. But then for a week, I was having little hey, did you pull my shirt? And he was like, no. And I was like, something's happening. Yeah. And I feel it, and I was like, it makes me feel like it's a school. And it made me feel like that a couple times. And here, there's a couple times where I'm like, this is something that would happen at the school.
Yeah.
Not something that's happening here, because my house is very peaceful. It's very, very, very peaceful. It's the most peaceful place I've ever slept in my entire life. Experienced something. It is very calming out here, and I don't take that lightly. Usually I always have one experience somewhere I'm living, and here I'm just like, oh my god, this is my zen. But it's happened to me a couple times where something's like, oh, and then I sage the house real quick.
Well, see, ever since we sold the school, any place I've lived, we're going through light bulbs like crazy. So ever since living at the school, I've had a thing with lights. Lights will flicker when I enter a room, and I'll be
I've seen
it. It's here. And I don't know what it is. I have been told by some mediums what it could be or who they think it is, and I won't disclose that on here. Yeah. But I do feel like, that could be it, but I don't know, I feel like there's more to it, and that's one of the reasons I really would love to have a medium come on the show who can maybe tell me a little bit more.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, any house that I've lived in, it got to a point where
she's visited my home here.
Yeah.
Like I said, this is the chillest house I've ever lived in, and
and when I come to town,
yeah, there was this moment where all of a sudden she's like, oh my gosh, the lights haven't flickered here yet, and then in a second it just went psh, and you're just like, well, thanks for inviting it.
Yeah. So the first place that my ex and I ever lived, that was, I think, the third place I had lived since moving out of the school. And so this was, a couple years later. And finally, I was like, you know what? I'm having an electrician come here, because there is no way. We can't keep affording, to buy light bulbs like this. And, it's annoying having them constantly flicker. I can't have this happen. So I was like, all right, it's got to be coincidence. Every place I've lived since the school, we've had electrical problems. So we call an electrician, and he does his thing, and he comes up to me when he's done, and he says, nope, everything is perfectly fine. And I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So basically I need a full-time job just to be able to afford light bulbs.
Yeah.
What was that?
That was weird. Sorry guys. Something just fell over here.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. Huh. I felt it. It's right here.
I felt it too.
Wow. Okay. All right. Yeah.
Oh, that was the cow. Oh, by the way, just to inform you guys, we are filming and recording out of a stable inside of a barn. So if you hear wildlife, that's why.
farm animals.
Farm animals,
you know, your
yeah.
cows, your goats, your donkeys, your horses, that kind of thing.
If you hear like a donkey kick, you know, the stall next to us, that's what it is. But no, whatever just happened, that was definitely in here. I felt it.
It was
and
right
I heard
there.
it.
It's right over here. I think it might have been a box like fell over or something.
Yeah, that was weird.
I don't know. It was really weird. I've saged in here like 3 times, by the way.
Really?
For real. I was like, if we're gonna talk about this, I was like, I'm gonna cleanse the soul and go from there.
Me?
I don't know. I'm just a little on edge. Like I said, we don't talk about this much. I know we all have different feelings. Like I said, my mom has experienced her own stuff. I know she's experienced her own stuff. Everyone in that building has experienced their own stuff. I will say my dad will say he didn't experience anything, but he also can't hear.
Yeah.
And also, no offense, but I don't think he cared to know either.
Yeah.
And he just kind of shut it out.
He is just a peaceful, go with the flow type of guy. And so I think that's why he says that. But do you remember when he got locked in the attic?
Yeah.
They're going crazy.
They're going really crazy. That's weird.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Well, it's been a full moon too, guys. We did this right next to the harvest moon, so you know everyone's been a little crazy. My hairdresser said people are feral right now. I was like, okay, all right, I get it.
Aren't they always though?
Yeah. True. I think they're extra feral this week, but yeah, we shared our story. I know that it wasn't in order. It was kind of a little messy, but
and you know what? Throughout our journey, we'll probably throw in tidbits from the schoolhouse that maybe we didn't tell in this episode, because there is a decade's worth of things that happen there. So like we can't think of it all, Maybe we should start writing down when we think of a memory and see if we've shared it yet or not.
I know. I think this is going to open up our memories a little bit more.
I think it already has, yeah. For me.
And let out some of this. Like I said, it was hard for us to talk about it because we could only talk about it with ourselves.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we were like, I don't really want to deal with this right now. And it became like a huge issue for us trying to figure that out and make sure, like, are we really going to handle this, or are we just going to kind of say, hey, this happens and it's just okay and we're just going to ignore it. And like I said, it's been almost 10 plus years later and we're like still dealing with it in a weird way. Yeah. And that's why we wanted to start this podcast.
That is something that will always be a part of me. Even if I can, detach from it, it's like at the same time, it will always be a piece of me.
Yeah, I think so. Like it was always a part of us. And
I think it always will be a part of us.
100%. Yeah. 100%.
And I think that was the start of all of us, with our connection.
Mm-hmm. I think in some form way it was the start of our connection, and getting here to this point, we were sharing our stories, and like I said, we're really excited to hear everyone else's stories. And like I said, any way, shape, or form, like I said, paranormal, unexplainable, cryptids, UFOs, we're here for you. We're not here to judge.
Sightings, anything that you have, we want to hear about it. We will not judge you. And
if you got a place that's extra kooky, spooky, we might come by and visit. I'm not saying that we're going to get rid of anything or do anything like that, but we'd like to just be able to sit there, listen, and, maybe we see something that you've seen, and that way you have validation too. I know it's hard to feel validated when you have these experiences, especially, like I said, in Kentucky and Indiana. We're a very quiet, hushed up community, especially in the rural parts, and I understand why, but at the same time, this is a new generation, and people need to know what's happened on their properties before. They need to know what happened in their towns. They need to know these things, because if you don't, there's just going to be this lost information that no one's ever going to have, and you're like, am I crazy now that I moved in here, or am I?
It's the manipulation behind it. If you are not opening up to it, just like with the ghost that was, the ones that were obsessed with Mom, and that would take it out on us, or that wanted, Papa to leave and have her all to her. It's the manipulation behind it. I think that's another important part about it, and how it could be manipulating your life or your choices or your peace. You're supposed to have peace in your home, and if you don't have peace in your home, that's not cool. And so I think that's a big part of it too.
And if there's anyone out there that does like stuff like this where they try to help people or cleanse their homes or help themselves set boundaries, please reach out to us and tell us what you do and all that, and maybe we can help promote you and help get people help that need it. Because like I said, we understand at this point. We both have children now, and to even think that my child would be scared at something. And by the way, my child sees things. He's a thing. He's not scared, so it makes me feel comfortable. But if he got scared, I know right then and there I would nip it in the bud very quickly and set some boundaries. And I want to make sure people are aware how to do that. I know. Are you seeing that?
Candles doing?
I know. It's weird. We're I don't know. I think talking about it is releasing some emotions and stuff in the air right now. And like I said, we're not trying to shove anything down anyone's throats. We this is our place to talk. We want people to feel comfortable. Yeah. We have room for someone to sit in here and talk with us, and we have availability if you need to call us online. We can set up an interview online and do that kind of stuff. But please reach out to us at Whispers of the Unbridled Spirit, and we appreciate you all. Get a hold of us one way or another. Instagram, Facebook, on our website. Reach out to us and tell us your stories, please. And don't be afraid. We're not here to judge you. We are here to just hear you out. Tell us your story. It may seem weird. It may seem crazy, but ours sounded kind of crazy.
I mean, we are kind of crazy in theory, but like
we're the good kind of crazy where we're like we know we're crazy.
I'm definitely not denying that I'm not crazy, but I know for a fact that not a single person can gaslight me into thinking that I didn't experience the things that I experienced, and so I want to be that for people. Yeah, that validation for people. And this story isn't over because we're still experiencing some things to this day, and we could talk about that at a later date. Episodes, I would love to go over some of the stuff I experienced, after the school.
Yeah, and like I said, it's still, we opened ourselves up and we still experience things, and we have weird things and queaky dinks that happen to us every day, and it's just one of those things we're ready to hear everyone else feel like that. And like I said, Kentucky, I've been here for 10 years now, and I'm like shocked I don't hear more weird stories from y'all. Y'all got history. Currently we're in Nelson County, and if anyone knows about that, I mean, we got the Talbot Tavern. It's the oldest tavern in Kentucky, and it's got rich history, and some things have happened there, and people just kind of maybe keep it under the rug. And I'm like, please tell your stories. Please let people know, like, this is going to happen to them. Some people don't like that, and that's cool. I understand. No judgment there. But if you experienced it or are experiencing something, we want to help you, or at least let you talk about it so you don't hold it in, and then now you get these emotions where you're like, so much stuff had happened, and you're reflecting back on it, and you're just like, I wish I talked about it more, and I would have been okay with being a little crazy. It wouldn't have hurt anyone, so...
Yeah.
As long as they don't hurt anyone, what's the matter?
Yeah, definitely. It felt so taboo back then.
I know. It really did.
Yeah.
It really did.
Yeah.
But please reach out to us, get a hold of us, and we appreciate you and thank you for watching.